Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us for a short webinar on making sugar sweeter with CRM to ERP integration. And I apologize for the dreadful pun, but I promise you I didn't make it up. One of my colleagues decided it would be a very good idea. My name is Charlie Gray. I work in sales for Magic Software. I'm joined today by my colleague Richard Rungs. Richard's one of our senior technical architects, and he'll be giving us a brief demonstration of what will be a simple process, sharing information between sugar and an ERP system. What I suggest, as you probably found that when you kind of click the link to log in here, it takes a couple of minutes. So not everyone who had registered has managed to pitch up yet. Oh, there's a couple more joined now. So we'll give it a minute or two. In the meanwhile, if I just do some housekeeping, everybody's phone, except mine, has been muted. So, but we do welcome questions. So if I can ask you, in the panel, on probably the top right of your screen, you'll see a panel there, and there will be like a chat box. By all means, if you've got questions as we're going through, or if you can't hear something, or if you can't see something on your screen, then do let us know. And as I say, do ask questions. We'll probably leave the questions until the end, because it's quite possible that they may have actually been answered by some of the things that we'll cover. The other point to make is if you would like to share the content of this webinar when we're finished with any of your colleagues, the plan is that we will be recording it. Assuming that our internet bandwidth holds up and we don't all start having screen problems or audio problems, we'll certainly put that up on YouTube, and we'll send out a link to everybody as well. What time is it now? There's a few more people. Good. As I said, we're all busy, so I'm going to try to keep the session to about a half an hour. By definition, that means we won't be able to get into an awful lot of detail. Perfectly happy to organise a separate session for individuals, with anybody that wants to discuss some of the topics that we're going to cover in a bit more detail. Then we can do that on another day. Okay? As I said, webinar is going to be recorded. Your sound has been muted, but please type any questions in. So as the dreadful title suggests, we will be discussing the concept of business processes from sugar to other enterprise applications, and in this case specifically ERP systems. First of all, though, just so that we get an idea of where you are in your journey, and yes, I did use air quotes when I used the word journey. I'm going to put a kind of poll onto your screen. You should see it coming up in a second or two once I find it. And I would ask if you could click the one answer that applies most to you. I've got people seeing it. Some people already answered. I'm going to give it a few seconds to say it. And we won't be testing you on it afterwards, but it's just it'd be useful to get an idea of sort of how far along your experience of using sugar, or indeed any CRM system. But I'm imagining that most of the people here are either sugar users or potential sugar users. I know one chap who is not. Probably had a long conversation about that yesterday, and he may become a sugar or a Salesforce or a something else user. Okay, I'm going to stop that one now. Thank you very much for those answers. That's useful. It looks like most people less than 2 years, but a few people have been using it for more than 2 years, and I can guess who those might be. But thank you very much for that. Okay, so by way of an agenda, I'm going to look at some sort of business processes around sugar and really on what are the kind of ideal areas to start looking at integrating sugar with other points in your organization. organisation. Then I'm going to hand over to Richard, who will take us through, as I said, a live demo. And actually, because it's a live demo, I should warn you that we will all be sitting here with fingers and toes and everything else crossed that it all goes well, because he ran through it this morning, and one of our systems, I think it was SAP, was having some gremlins. We think we've got them ironed out, but as I say, we will hope for the best. And then I've put some questions at the end. If you've got any questions, then we'll try to answer them then. But by all means, ask us the questions as we go through the session. So typical integration scenarios then for Sugar users are, and I'm not going to read all of these out, but they're just some examples of the types of things that you might see. So, I mean, building a data warehouse is a business process in itself, but it may well be that the natural place for populating that data warehouse is in the Sugar system that you're using, that your salespeople and your customer service people, etc., are adding to as they have conversations and interactions with customers. And another area, and this is becoming, I think, much more of an important area in terms of CRM in particular, is data cleansing and removal of duplicate entries. And I know that Sugar has a capability to spot likely duplicates. However, I think and this is not only true of Sugar, but of all of the CRM systems that I've ever used, they're not foolproof, and they can be quite time consuming to go through and do them. So one of the kind of key topics we have conversations around with our customers and our prospective customers is often about somehow simplifying and speeding up that process of getting rid of and identifying duplicate records. And then the obvious one is if there's some kind of modification to an account or a lead or a contact within Sugar, then making sure that that's reflected in the ERP system so that there is only one version of the truth and that things are current all the time. And various other ones, so there's quote to cash, so that the various systems are involved. ERP might even involve shipping if it's something that you can't recognize until the product or whatever the service is that you're delivering has actually been delivered, etc., etc. Another example is if you've got, and again, increasingly companies have got some kind of e-commerce, whether that's a Magento type of front end on their website, that you would want that communicating with Sugar for any transactions or indeed any inquiries about price, etc., etc. And then there's the other ones that are things like when you've got new Sugar people, new users of Sugar joining your organization, making sure that that's as smooth as possible, and obviously updates between the Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, etc., etc., is again something that's becoming increasingly useful thing to have. So, and for our purposes today, because we're looking at ERP, we are talking really about back office systems, though, and it tends to be essential. I think in every situation that we work with Sugar partners, and I believe there's one or two on here today, it becomes a requirement, not necessarily in the early stages of a Sugar implementation, but fairly quickly it's realized that great as a CRM system might be, it does depend on access to information and processes that live in other systems in order to really provide a payoff. So I've got the old cliche here about a 360-degree customer view across all of the business, and really what I'm saying is that by integrating your CRM system with those other systems, and it might be logistics, and it might be warehouse management, etc., etc. Today we're talking ERP, but that's how you actually achieve that 360-degree view of all the people that and I've said customer here, but actually it could be supplier, it could be other partners, etc., etc. Other benefit being reducing the likelihood of duplicates, as we mentioned earlier, and errors in data. And the benefit you get from that is that your interactions with customers are much more efficient from the point of view of how much they cost you, and they're much more impressive from the point of view of your customer's perception of you as a partner, as a supplier, as a vendor. I've come up with I want to use a little example of a kind of real-world example of how integration might be particularly beneficial. So we're going to call this guy Jack, and Jack's a sales guy, and he's out on the road, and he had a meeting booked, and he's just had a phone call to say, sorry, his meeting's been cancelled. So what does he do in order to avoid wasting that whole trip? Well, because he has Sugar, he has a CRM system, and because that's been integrated with other systems that they have, and because they've used Magic products to create a kind of mashup from some of those systems in an app that's available on his phone, you can say, well, this is where I am. I'll put my postcode in, and let's see what else I could be doing so as to make sure I get some use out of the journey that I've just made. So when he clicks that app, then a validation is done. Make sure he is who he says he is, and it takes a look in the ERP system, see what other customers are around in the same area. That maybe sends something off to the CRM system. So Sugar says, of all these customers that have just been identified in the ERP system, this is the latest situation with each one of those. So there might be one that's got a critical support case outstanding, and that would be really good to go and visit them to smooth things out with them. And then we've got another integration. In this case, it's with Google Maps. And so we can look and see how far away each of these potential other visits that he could call up and say, I'm in the area, do you mind if I pop around and have a chat with you? And so he selects the one that seems like the best option for him to go and visit. And when he does that, thanks to Google Maps, he has a route planned out for him, and he's able to make use of his Sugar system, his ERP system, and the flexibility of the mobile phone, smartphone capability. Okay. So that's one example of a business process. I thought it might be useful to take a look at what are the definitions of a business process. And Gartner tells us that a business process is one that spans organizational boundaries, linking together people, information flows, systems, and other assets, and to create and deliver value to customers and constituents. All of which I would have to say I couldn't disagree with, but it's a wee bit wordy, and I thought I'll look and see what my friend Wikipedia says. And I think I kind of like this because it feels more like real world. It's a collection of related structured activities or tasks to produce a specific service or product and to serve a particular goal for a particular customer or for customers. And they also say it could be visualized as a flowchart of a sequence of activities. And there's actually, I think, probably only a couple of things that I would add to what they've said there. And they're kind of implied, but they're not said specifically. I would like to add to that description that triggers are the heart of that sequence of activities that Wikipedia talks about. I'd also like to say that error handling is a vital part of making that business process successful and useful. And so that takes us on to, if you like, the real way that we would go about integrating Sugar with ERP systems, and what are the important things that you as a company that might be looking at doing that should be thinking about. There's a list of them here, and I'll add a few bits on to add some detail to it. So certified connectivity for the applications that you're using within your organization, and that's about making sure that whatever platform or whatever solution you use to do your integration, it's got some level of certification. So for example, if you're using SAP, or if you're using an Oracle system, and you use the Magic XPI connectors to do that, and yes, I would say that, wouldn't I? Those have been already certified by Oracle, by SAP, and there's a whole list of vendors that we get our connectors certified by. The importance of that is that you know that they work and they're maintained by us, so that they will always be able to work with those main systems. And from a financial point of view, the other side of it is if you use connectors that haven't been certified, then your vendors may charge you more for your maintenance on their systems. So it is actually quite important to get that done. The other thing is that it's very useful if you are someone who knows all about the business processes, but who is not a a coder, if I can use that expression, who's not necessarily a programmer, that the system that you use to achieve those integrations is one that you can use visually, that you don't have to do to drop out into writing, C# code or Java code or anything like that. So, and again, as Richard will show us, Magic XPI, our solution for integration, is all about drag and drop, very, very visual front end, and just mapping the source data to the destination data. We call that code free. The other nice thing about that is that you can achieve an integration that you develop only once, but you can deploy it in several other projects, because let's face it, a lot of those business processes do essentially the same thing. They take data from one place, they put it in another place for various different systems. We've already talked about removal of duplicate records and identification of duplicate records, and also, and I don't think we'll get into detail about it, but I can just say that the architecture that we've used within Magic XPI is built on an in-memory data grid, so that enables you to start at the size that you need, but to be able to scale up or down according to demands. And those might be seasonal demands, maybe at Christmas time, if you did have a web shop, an e-commerce option in your website, that might be very, very busy in the run up to Christmas or the run up to the summer holiday time. But for most of the rest of the year, it can tick along quite nicely at a much lower level of resource intensiveness. So Magic XPI, very, very briefly, it gives you connectivity really to pretty much any data source. We've not yet ever found something that we weren't able to connect to. It's a platform that sits in the middle, that's the blue bit, and as you can see, all these other logos around the side there, we see Sugar, and we can also see like IBM, Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, so various other CRM systems, as well as all of the major well-known, dominant, if I'll call them that, ERP systems, and 1,000 other ones that we can connect to. If we don't have a pre-certified connector, then we will be able to, with the tools in the toolbox, which I'll show you in a wee second, we can certainly build an adapter to get to those things. Another example of some of the other things, but as I say, today we're talking about Sugar to ERP, so I'm not going to dwell on these. If anybody would like a copy of these slides, then you're more than welcome. Let me know, and I'll send that to you. I did say, though, there's no coding, so if I can just, because I've asked Richard to concentrate just in the demo part, but Richard would ordinarily show you a couple of these things by way of positioning that. We talk about there being no coding, and what you do really is you orchestrate the business process. So if we look from the left to the right here, the input is coming in from Sugar CRM in this case. That data is maybe a new contact or a new lead being created by a salesperson or a customer support rep. It gets validated. If it's not valid, then an error is created and an email or a text message is sent to the administrator. Assuming it's valid, then the contact is then created or updated in the ERP system. It might be updated also in SharePoint, if you're a SharePoint organization. And the end result is that the contact now exists in ERP, SharePoint. If there's been a problem, then somebody has been notified who can take a corrective action on it. And that's at the very high level. And to create that type of thing, again, with the theme here being that we're not doing any coding, then if you like, the blue area, which is in the middle of this screen here, is what we call the trigger area. So it's sitting there and just listening for an event that applies to it. When that event happens, in this case, something gets updated in SAP. When that event happens, it triggers the flow of processes that sit underneath it. And as Richard will show you in a couple of minutes, all of these things are not coded, they're configured. He just drags them across from his toolbox and puts them in the appropriate place in there. So in this case, SAP has been notified that something has happened. It means it needs to create a new account in Sugar, and then we have the various options. Did it get created correctly? In which case, the new account is created. If there was an error, then notify somebody and log that transaction as an error transaction. And the way that you would identify, and you'll maybe get a chance to show you some of this, As I say, again, I know I'm beating this up a little bit, but it's all about not having to write code, and that's a very important part of it. So when you identify what the source information, so in this case it would be Sugar CRM, and the back office might be, I don't know, Syspro or Sage or whatever. I think Richard's going to show us SAP. You literally, you have a list of all of the data fields on the source part, and you drag and drop them to the appropriate place in the destination database. I'm going to assume that you've all had a look at Magic Software at some point, so I'm not going to beat you up with PowerPoint about who we are. We've been around for 30 years, although I'm actually only 22 years old. I just sound a lot older. Richard, if I ask you to get ready and give us a demo, but could I ask you people to answer another poll, please? And in this case, you can choose as many answers as seem appropriate, but it's just to see, again, what are the areas that, from your point of view or from your business's point of view, are the most important for integration. And I may not have come up with an exhaustive list there, but it would be interesting to see if you have any thoughts about it. We're talking today about CRM to SAP. However, one of the big hot topics in terms of CRM is combining CRM with like a Marketo or a Pardot type of marketing automation. I don't know, it's something that we internally that we put quite a lot of our emphasis on. Okay, it looks like everyone, I think, have voted. Thank you very much for those. Just for anyone who's interested, it turns out CRM to ERP is the most common one, and as I just mentioned there, CRM to marketing automation is another one, which is important for people. So I'm going to close that. Thank you very much for those replies. And now let me just make Richard the presenter. And Richard, if you could share your screen with us when you're ready.
Okay.
I'll tell you when. Yes, I'm seeing it now.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to show you today is a very simple integration process between Sugar CRM and SAP ECC or R3. The process is that I'm going to create an account in Sugar, and the integration platform will then pick that account up and create it in SAP to just show you a very simple integration in a live demo. After that, I'm planning to just show you a brief demo of the development environment and how the live demo has actually been implemented. So I have already filled in a new account that I'm going to create. I'll call it Sugar CRM Webinar 7. And if I save this, then I expect this record to be created in our or integrated with our SAP system. So just going to start the engine and waiting for this record to be picked up by the integration platform. I need to warn you now that we have already had some issues with connectivity to our SAP demo system, so I hope it will be all right, but it may be slow, which is not how it's going to happen in a real life scenario. I'm sorry for that if that happens.
Richard, am I right in saying, it might be worth pointing out, the bit that we're seeing right now, that's the monitor?
Yeah, so this is the monitor.
Ordinarily, a user will never see that.
No, not the end user, no. So an end user would normally just create an account in Salesforce, and this is just automatically created in Sugar and then automatically transferred to SAP. So it's not something that the end user would normally be involved with. Yeah. So this is the monitor that actually monitors a live integration server. And it seems like SAP is taking its time. And while we're waiting for that, I'm going to log in to SAP. Yeah, we are experiencing network issues, so that's why it takes this so. There we go. So in order to display a customer in SAP, the code is xpi-03. And I'm just waiting for the integration platform to get a response back from SAP, and that's done there. I'm just going to look here which account number was created in the actual response back from SAP. And the account number was created was 301390. And if I go back to my sugar screen, you see this ERP reference here? So I reload this page, then I expect that to be updated with the newly created account customer number in SAP, which means that I can actually make operations on this record, or the integration platform can transfer data to this CRM record using data that is coming entirely from SAP using the customer number in SAP.
So the thing you started to show us there was you created an account in Sugar, and that's now being created in SAP automatically for us.
Yeah.
That's one way, but actually we got a two-way thing because we got a response back from SAP back into Sugar to update the Sugar record also.
That's correct. And if you go into SAP and I type this customer number in, then I expect the name and the address and phone number, etc., to have been transferred into SAP correctly. It takes its time, huh? Yeah. So there we have Sugar CRM Webinar 7, and it has the same street address as the billing address in Sugar. So now I am going to continue with showing you how this has been implemented. So what you're looking at is the Magic XPI Studio, which is the development environment where we configure the integration project. And what you're looking at in the top left pane is the navigation pane. It holds several workflows, which is a technical step-by-step breakdown of a business process. And we can also use various components which we have to our disposal that we are using to build workflows. So before I go into the actual process itself, I know there are many components, but from a technology point of view, we can expose and consume web services, handle XML data, send and receive email, HTTP, using FTP, and so on. Including communicating with IBM I, message queuing, etc. Then we have some specific certified components or adapters that connect to specific systems. So for an example, Sugar CRM component knows how to communicate with Sugar CRM instance. We have the whole range of SAP ERP system, JDE, both World and Enterprise One. We have dynamic, SharePoint, etc. So as the capabilities from a technical point of view, we are supporting all technologies that are in the service-oriented architecture paradigm, and also we have many certified application adapters that can be used to build these workflows. So let's go to the workflow itself. So the blue pane is a trigger area. The white part is the actual steps that form the process. And in order to configure a trigger, it should be trigger, I just need to drag the component, the Sugar CRM component, up to the trigger area and just specify what objects I want to, or module I want to trigger on, and which operation. So this means that I just need to select which account, which object I want to use, and then select the operation, which can be create, updated, or deleted, where I want to store that data in memory, and just click OK. And how that is then that event, when a new account has been created, is identified, is completely hidden by the integration platform. So for each record that we get from this trigger, we create a new customer in SAP. And creating a new customer in SAP is very simple. You drag the SAP component into the flow, specify which remote function call you want to make in the SAP API. Click OK. And on the source, I have the account data that was passed from the Sugar CRM trigger. And on the destination, the SAP component has already pre-configured how that function call looks like. So in the source, I have a Sugar CRM account. And on the destination, I have the remote function call in SAP. And in order to match something, just to show you how simple this is, we just select the source and drag it to the destination, and that's it. You can also transform data, you can manipulate strings, you can have multiple source fields, for example, nodes mapped to a destination, and etc. And then we read the response from SAP and extract the account number that was created, and then in order to update the account record with the customer number in SAP, just need to go into the configuration of the component. Again, select which module, in this case it's account, which operation I want to update. Click OK, and now on the destination, I just need to specify which record ID I want to update, and then set the ERP reference to the new customer number in SAP. This is a very brief demo, and this is more or less what I plan to show. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and I will try my best to answer them.
Thank you, Richard. Do you want to pass control back to me? I don't have any other slides to show you. You'll be dreadfully sorry to hear, I'm sure. But I would actually, while that's been happening, I see one question has come in. If you have questions, by all means, please type them into that chat box. Richard, the first question that's come in is I think I know the answer, but I'll defer it to you. Can we still connect to older systems, like legacy systems?
Yes. So we can always connect directly to the database engine, or we can use whatever API that is available on a legacy system. We have very good connectivity to IBM System I, so we can leverage those systems, those applications that are still running on that platform.
System I is AS400.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, good. I think I know who this is from. Yes, I do. I'm not using Sugar CRM. Can Magic integrate with other CRM systems?
Yes, so we can integrate with all the major CRM systems such as Salesforce, Dynamics CRM, and today's all modern CRM systems today usually have a web services interface, or as in the case with Sugar CRM, a REST web services interface. So that's very easy and seamless to connect to any of these systems.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I'll give it a minute just to see if any other questions come in, but that's all the ones I've got so far. I'm not sure if that's because we did such a marvelous job of making everything clear. I hope so. Any other questions from anyone? I know it's only been a 4-day week, but it's probably felt like a long week for lots of us. No, nothing else. In that case, let me just thank you all very much for your time and your attention. I really do appreciate it. And joking aside, it has felt like quite a long week, I think. all looking forward to the weekend, and I hope you all have a lovely one. As I mentioned at the start, we've recorded the session, so assuming the quality of that recording is okay, we'll send you a link to that as well over the next day or two. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye now.